Good morning, I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today we'll meet Dr. Lomax Campbell, President of the Greater Rochester Black Business Alliance.
We hope you will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community, we'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
Dr. Campbell, thank you very much for being in Be Inspired, a show that we designed to introduce and present to our community people like you who will inspire us, people who are innovating, changing, transformation, things like that. Let's start to learn who is Dr. Kambou.
Well, first off, thank you for having me this evening. I'm very excited to be with you today. So Dr. Kambou is a young man from the community here. I grew up in the neighborhood on Parcells Avenue, born and bred, and I graduated from Rochester City Schools and started my first business at age 19. It was a commercial photography company that I came into as an understudy, and within 6 months made partner shooting weddings and doing fashion shows, hair shows, and things like that. And after about a year of being out of school, I enrolled at Monroe Community College, where I did work, business administration, did an associate's degree there, and transferred right on to RIT, where I did a bachelor's of science there, and then went back after a year still running and growing my business, and ended up going back for the executive MBA program. So tried and true entrepreneur. I've run, I want to say, a total of 5 businesses now. In a past role, I helped grow a division over at Monroe Community College, focused on workforce and economic development. And while there, for about 7.5 years, I started working on my Doctor of Management at University of Maryland. So I'm a child of this community, a servant of this community, a brother to brothers, a brother to sisters, just someone who likes to make a difference.
Wow. And I know you're involved in a lot of things, so we're going to try to pinpoint some of them and go through some of them today. So one of the ones I want to ask you about is the Greater Rochester Black Business Alliance.
Yes.
And what that organization does. A few weeks ago we had on the president of the Hispanic Business Association. So tell us a little bit about that organization.
Sure. So I serve on the Economic Development Committee of a local black foundation, Gamma Odubule Foundation to be explicit. And about 2 years ago, we said we want to do economic development in the black community, but we can't do that without a Chamber of Commerce focused on our needs and issues explicitly. We haven't had a Black Business Alliance for, at that time, about 9 years. And so we began meeting and kind of pulled together another group that was also trying to work on the same thing. They referred to themselves as the Kitchen Crew. And we came together in the fall of, I want to say 18 at the time, and began a series of planning meetings. And so that led to the creation of GRABA, as we call it, Greater Rochester Black Business Alliance, on May 2nd, 2019. So that's when we formally was filed with the state of New York as a 501c3 organization, and we began a series of events starting in June.
That is powerful to see organizations who are focusing in bringing opportunities for people to develop business. What is your perception about the business environment in Rochester today?
Wow. So you've probably heard the phrase that Rochester is resource rich and results poor. And a lot of times it's because a lot of the things that we've initiated, we don't stick with long enough to materialize all of the wonderful things that if you just get over that hurdle, you can realize. There's a lot of organizations doing good work, working with our businesses. I've been indexing the array of them for another project in my day job, and we're over 90 organizations that provide everything from business plan support, concept development, funding, technical assistance in other areas, helping folks form their organization if they're at a certain level of income and they can't afford to form their LLC, C Corp, S Corp, et cetera. And they do these as public services. So the resources are there, but a lot of times, especially our women and minority-owned businesses, don't know about those services, right? If you don't have parents who ran a business, or if you haven't worked in a capacity where you'd be exposed to these services, they're all there, but that linkage is not there. And so we have a lot of folks with a lot of great ideas. We're a very talented workforce here and a lot of talented entrepreneurs So really trying to create a forum or platform to connect folks to those services is part of what we're here to do. I think the condition is high. You know, since the fall of our prior economy with the bigger manufacturers, it's really been the shift of moving from a company town to a town of companies. And entrepreneurship is at the center of that, and we don't want particularly black and brown businesses to be left out of Rochester's recovery, from an economic standpoint.
What are some of the sectors that you see growing in the area? What types of businesses?
Oh, wow. So on a broader scale, our region, under the whole Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council's mission and work, has really prioritized like advanced manufacturing, information and computing technology, hospitality and tourism. They focused on health and health care, and then also like business services. Those have been the main areas. In terms of the smaller businesses, a lot of them are still in food-based businesses and wanting to cater, wanting to scale those restaurants and create separate second and third locations and things like that. I think there's a lot of opportunity though in the professional services space, financial services space. I think there's also a lot of opportunity in emerging markets. You know, I don't think we're there yet, but I know at some point the cannabis market is going to hit New York State, and that new sector, that industry, is going to need everything from packaging services to testing services to delivery services, and you're going to need security services and things like that. You're going to probably even benefit from point of sale systems, so in the IT space, catering specifically to that market. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities that comes with that. And of course, real estate is always a thing.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned great opportunities. However, there are significant challenges developing businesses in an environment where there is a lot of bureaucracy, restrictions, taxes. How you create a vibrant community in a state where it's struggling so much about those aspects of constrained taxes. There's a lot of companies who move south to Florida because there is better conditions down there. What is your position as an organization around those topics?
So right now, I think the most important thing is relationship building and advocacy. I think at the center of that is going to be community organizing work around the issues that affect our particular constituency. And so educating our members around what policies and what resources exist, and trying to really build a broad base of folks to push for our Albany, for example, and Washington, to really take a look at us and really collaborate across organizations to partner and push the agenda of trying to make that bureaucracy go away. And I think that there's, with the efforts that are happening now at the city, at the county, across our region, I think that we have unprecedented opportunities to do some things, particularly for small businesses, that haven't been done before.
And so what are some of the activities building on that and trying to advocate in some of those ways? What are some of the activities of the Greater Rochester Black Business Alliance?
Sure.
And how can people find out and get involved?
Sure. If I can kind of step back in order to step forward,
Sure.
right? We have a vision of creating vibrant black communities within a strong black economy, right? And in order to do that, you need both to prioritize the overall well-being of black businesses, including their attraction, their retention, their creation, the upscale of the quality and expansion and so on and so forth. And then also to promote deal making. There's a lot of networking organizations in Rochester that do networking well, but organizations that explicitly focusing on making deals, whether it's producing supplier diversity programming, partnerships, so that when you understand the requirements of a larger organization, you can bring back to your membership and educate them on this is the investment that you need to make in your small business to be at the caliber and the scale to be able to provide the service. Another thing that we've done is we've developed two concepts. One's called a wealth rally. The other one's called a power hour. These are both deal-making events that also feel like relationship building and networking events. In fact, we have one this Saturday. An organization called Forever and Ever Boutique and Dow Museum, located over on Tremont, is going to be the business that we've chosen to host this wealth rally. And if I can give you kind of some of the nuts and bolts to give context, It runs from 10 to 2. We generally do this on a 5th Saturday, which means it doesn't happen often in Rochester, because in a year's time you may have 4 or 5 5th Saturdays. And the idea is from 10 to 2, you're trying to get as much traffic to this business that people may or may not know about. Halfway through the first hour, you're doing an introduction, you allow the business to introduce themselves, and you explain the concept. The idea is to make deals. Everybody that comes through the door of this establishment, which is free and open to the public, is expected to buy something to support this business. So this comes on the concept of a cash mob. But I don't like the concept, the word cash mob, so we call it a wealth rally. At the top of the 11 o'clock hour, there's a 15 to 20 minute presentation on some topic of interest to small businesses. It doesn't matter if they're black owned, white owned, LGBT owned, women owned. It's some topic of interest to business, small business particularly. And it's for enriching those businesses and giving them ideas that they can take back to lift the business up while they're there supporting the business at hand.
Well, thank you so much, Lomax. We'll be back with more after these messages. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how people can get listed?
Absolutely. So about 6 years ago now, it's amazing how time flies, myself and 2 friends began, and actually the first, one of the friends started on his own. He spent a year trying to figure it out on his own and said, I hit a wall, I need some help, I want to build this concept out, help. And so the two of us who weren't a part of it came into the program. The project was called Black Owned Business Rochester. And the idea was to create a central repository of every black-owned business in Rochester, Greater Rochester, every black-oriented business or nonprofit organization oriented towards the black community, and every black-operated organization. So black-owned, black-oriented, black-operated. I might be switching a few of them around, but that would include professional associations like GRABA, the fraternities and sororities, what we call the Divine Nine. That would include the Black Bar Association, because they're not a for-profit business enterprise. They're a nonprofit organization where the majority of their advocacy work and civic work and engagement is the black community, predominantly. And then because we have organizations like Action for a Better Community, Urban League, they're not a for-profit business, but they very much function within the black ecosystem or economy, right? And so having a comprehensive listing, right now we have over 430 listings on this site. We were able to expand it beyond just for-profit businesses, because when you need certain services, you don't care about their legal structure. You care about whether or not they're listed, right? So if, for example, just going back to Action for a Better Community, had space that can be accessed by a small business for a community meeting, or to collaborate on events. Let's say a photographer wanted to stage a space for a small gathering and was going to be capturing that. Those nonprofits matter. Those associations matter as a partner to help get the word out, and that many of them are affiliated with those organizations. And so the idea initially was to first build the database, but then be able to have the information to eventually produce the State of the Black Business report in Rochester. We don't have reports like that that says how many businesses are there, right? On average, how large are the membership? Like how many people are employed there? What's the annual billings? What are their top needs, whether they're capital, whether they're technical, whether they're networking? What are their biggest challenges? What are their greatest aspirations? What sectors are they in? Just like RBJ produced the Book of Lists. Sure. We saw that as an opportunity area to begin to capture this kind of activity within the black context, and then realize eventually we may want to do the same thing in the Latino context, partnering with organizations like United Way, where they have the LLDP program, or the Rochester Hispanic Business Association. And we also figured at some point we want to build out e-commerce components to it, so that small businesses that don't have the tech savvy to create their own website could potentially subscribe at a higher level and be able to build out a full profile where they can post images of their work or sell product right through the site. And proceeds from that plow right back into funding the platform, right? Folks who write books can sell right on the resources page, and again, proceeds plow back into it. So this is really a social enterprise undertaking because we haven't charged a dime for the site. We've been building it out of love, and right now we're looking at establishing a nonprofit component, like rebuilding it as a nonprofit organization, literally owning culturally specific technologies. And so that way we cut across cultural groups and built a capacity that can add to the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. I love the holistic approach. Mm-hmm. I love that touch many aspects. It's a very comprehensive plan. And I think one of the key elements with technology, you can simplify a lot of the access and be able to really expand the capacity of business owners to really be present not only in Rochester but in multiple other markets.
Absolutely.
Right? And expand that and connect with many Black organizations that are around the nation and the world. So there is a huge potential of what you guys are doing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the environment and the challenges. One of the things that had been difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs is the barriers. There are a lot of barriers, and specifically for minorities. Mm-hmm. So can you highlight some of the barriers that you identify in your interaction with business owners of small business?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest barriers is that a lot of entrepreneurs are not actually trained formally in business. Mm. If you're good at making clothes and you want to open a haberdashery, you're good at making clothes. You don't know finance, you don't know accounting, you don't know marketing. I mean, not naturally. Normally, mm-hmm. you know making clothes. Same thing with folks that want to open a PR firm. You may know PR, but still, you don't know why you may want to form an LLC instead of a DBA, for example. And so technical assistance is very important for those businesses. You also have access to capital barriers. That's probably one of the biggest barriers, because a lot of times, and we have a saying in our community, you got to crawl before you walk. Other communities don't always crawl before they walk. They go straight after what they want because they have the privilege and access to resources, whether it's from their family or their friends or affiliations that they have before they go to a bank. Or they have access to venture capitalists who can seed their dreams and allow them to start sprinting instead of start crawling. And so a lot of us have never gone through those processes of like applying for a loan or applying for a grant. And so we're not able to produce the materials and document our activities in a way that position us to be successful. And of course, there's also racism as another barrier that plays out in those institutions. And I'm not talking interpersonal racism where it's like, I hate you because you're, but I'm talking about structural and systemic barriers, you know, like the impact of redlining in the housing market in the past. You similarly have barriers where if you're locating a business in certain communities, you also may have challenges trying to get funding because you may not have a bank in your neighborhood. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sure. So those are some of the big ones.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're also very involved in the community. What are some of the ways you personally, and why do you choose to give back to the community?
I have a proclivity to give back to the community because I'm a product of the community, right? In Graba and also personally in life, I operate under a philosophy that was inspired by Angela Davis, which posits that we must always attempt to lift as we climb. And so literally, you know, I don't see success in the same way many people see success. I don't see acquiring a doctorate degree or getting a six-figure job and achieving millions in business as success if it's just you. Really, it's about the collective we moving together. And if our community as a whole is not doing well, I don't care how successful you think you are, eventually you're going to join them, you know, because it gets very lonely doing these things by yourself. And so I have a responsibility to be involved with community and try to mobilize community in the pursuit of progress, because that's the reason I'm not dead or in jail. It's the reason why I was inspired and encouraged to pursue higher education.
And that's very powerful, because I think this is the change that needs to happen in many of our communities, African American, Latino community, which is a change of the mindset in many ways, is to introduce that concept that you have expressed, is that capacity to understand that you can do it. And you are a clear testimony of that. You were able to overcome, I'm sure, many challenges. You come from the school district, one of the challenges in this, being part of that school district, but look who you are. And I think that's the most important message. what you will be telling right now to an African American or Hispanic person or whatever, any community who is watching right now the program and needs to be inspired because they see more the problems and not the opportunities. You saw the opportunities.
Absolutely.
And look who you are. So what will be the message to them right now?
The message that I would give back to the community is that no one creates themselves on their own. It really does take a village, not just to raise a child, but to create the reality that we want to create. And so just drawing on some ancestral wisdom, if you want to go quick, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
That is extremely powerful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lomax.
No problem.
Well, Doctor, I'm sure that we will be in the future together again, learning more of the great success of your organization. Thank you for giving back to the community. It's very important for Rochester to have organizations like this, amplify the diversity. And one quick thing before we finish.
Sure.
In one word, what defines you?
Excellence.
Thank you very much.
To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/be-inspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Poder 97.1, Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Saenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.